Well, hey, welcome everyone. I'm so grateful that you joined us today for our session on employability. I'm Ron Brooks with Truett's Grill. I'm the sales and brand director, and I am thrilled to be able to invite you into this webinar on employability. We're going to talk about keys to success in both getting and keeping, and maybe even progressing in whatever job, whatever vocation, whatever career it is you're interested in. I am joined today by my friends at UGA Griffin, and we've got a couple of other guests. You're going to meet them in just a moment. Melissa Gordon, who is the Assistant Director of Academic Affairs at UGA Griffin, joins me now. And I'm so thrilled, Melissa, to have you part of this. You and I have been partners in this for a little while, along with some of your teammates there at UGA, and I'm grateful to you. You want to say hello to everyone?
Absolutely. It's great to see you, Ron, see you as we've been seeing each other a lot. And we're excited about this partnership and really excited about the energy that you are bringing to this and the passion that you have for the vision behind this whole process. So we're excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Well, it has absolutely been a pleasure and sort of a burden. It's hard to call a burden because it's passion more than it is burden. But I love what I've been able to see as I meet people coming into church. We have people coming in every week, turning in employment applications, just talking about what it means to have a job at Chick-fil-A. And Truett's Grill is a special version of Chick-fil-A. This particular location established in 2006, the 60th anniversary of Truett's entrance into the restaurant industry. In 1996, it celebrated its 50th anniversary with the first Truett's Grill just north of here, and we're the 60th anniversary store. So we have a really neat heritage. And one of the things I loved about Truett is he cared so much about his team. He always said we're not in the business of chicken. We're not in the chicken business. We're in the people business. And he cared a lot about his team, and he cared a lot about the area around that first little dwarf house. And so we have received that heritage. And I reached out to you, Melissa, and some of your friends there, because we all saw, when I'd see people coming in, I would see people come with it that have these hidden talents and abilities. They might have the skills, they might have their work experience, but there would be these little things that I just would see they're going to keep them from getting to the next step in their job and next step in their career. And I thought, if we just spend some time, I think we could really help people make great gains in getting a job, getting a promotion, get more money for what they do, letting those talents be able to shine rather than kind of hide them under a light. And so you all had a sympathetic ear to that. And here we are doing this. We're also joined by Lee Taylor, who is the IT manager for academic programming at UGA Griffin. Lee, you want to say hello?
Hey everyone. I want to say thanks for the opportunity to work with you on this.
Lee, that is great. And Carmen Caldwell is in the background too. You're going to hear from her in just a minute. But I'm so excited. I'm going to let Melissa introduce her in a few minutes. But Carmen's been a good friend for a long time. You're going to love what she has to say today. You have a guide. You hopefully downloaded that guide. If not, you'll be able to do that. But I just want to go over a couple of quick ideas just to let you know what we're really saying. In fact, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And so forgive me for turning away. But I just want to be able to do this so we can follow along what it is we're really talking about. We say employability. And what we're doing is 7 keys to success in attracting the job you want. And for me, what that really means is rather than chasing a job, when you learn these keys we're talking about, the job is going to be a whole lot more eager to find you because you already have the skills, you already have the experience, you're already working on these special capacities for whatever career or job you want. And we're not going to give you that. We're going to give you the pieces that go along with it that help you be the best you can be when it comes to a job interview, when it comes to the job, to working with teammates, to meeting with your bosses, to meeting with the people who are going to decide if you get a promotion. And that's what this is about. And so what we're doing is talking about employability. And I'm not going to go to that. Okay. I'm going to just come back here and I'm going to read this to you. Employability is an approach to landing a job or a career move that asks the question, what do I want people to see in me? And then I work at making that thing a reality. And so it's all about what a potential employer is going to see in me. It means thinking about what I have to offer to a future employer. It means determining the things I want them to see in me and then taking steps to develop those things. So what I mean is that I'm going to think, okay, if I wanted to describe the me that's going to get hired, what would that me have? And then I start building it. And that's what I think about. What's the outcome I want to have? And I start building it like building a house or anything else. Melissa, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about how to talk about this. I don't know if you heard this phrase, but I could use all the help I could get in high school. And so I would remember people say the easiest time to find a girlfriend is when you already got one. You ever hear somebody say that kind of thing? Yeah. So, you know, they understand the irony of it. It's a sad irony. The same is true of the job. I've heard people say that. The easiest time to find a job is when you already got one, you don't need one. And it has something to do with sort of being occupied with the confidence and with the features that go along with that. And that's what we're really talking about, is how to boost those features that come with it. So when it comes to employability, it may be your skills or credentials that qualify you for a particular job, that is make you ready to be a plumber or a technician, an IT guy, if you want to be a professor, if you want to do academic affairs, or whatever it is. Here at Truett's Grill, if you want to cook, if you want to be one who introduces people to our products, if you want to be a frontline person, if you want to be in the back of the house. So your skills may get you ready for the particular job, but it's what we call the soft skills and character qualities that you need to develop for any job you have. Doesn't matter what the job is. You're going to need these things, and that's what we're talking about. So, Melissa, what I think about when I think about this is the ability to focus. If you want to focus on your career objectives, focus is great, but blind spots are awful. And blind spots to these little things like soft skills and character qualities are going to be a real hindrance to you. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think this is just a really, you mentioned the word confidence, and I think that's a big piece of all of this. And hopefully some of the conversations about some of these blind spots, as you just put it, things that you to just bring to the forefront anytime you're engaging in conversation, whether it's an interview or with a current employer or in school, whatever you may be doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will kind of, magnify those little issues for you and start to change it so that they're permanent changes in action for you. So I think that the confidence and building of that confidence is a key there.
Oh, that's great. Building the confidence. And you said make these changes permanent. That's exactly right, because we're not talking about anything that's rocket science. We're not talking about anything that's out of the scope for anybody here. Everything we're talking about is available to every one of us. And I think you would agree with me. We all had to practice and learn them. None of them came, one or two may come natural, but all seven are not natural to anyone. We all have to learn at least some of them. The series that we're talking about identifies these features, and three really qualities that we're going to talk about with these. Every one of them is necessary for any job you have. You can't have high quality, high paying jobs without these, but you can get them with these. In fact, you can go in all kinds of directions if you have these. The second thing is they can be developed with learning and practice. You can learn every single thing we're going to talk about. There's nothing that's going to be out of your reach. And the third thing, this is really exciting. Every one of them, you put them all together, they will open doors to greater opportunity the more we develop them. Now, specifically, here are the seven we're talking about. You ready for this? This is the drum roll moment, because this is where we unveil all that we're going to do. And it's not just today. Today's number one. And then we're going to spend the next 7 weeks talking about the rest of these. So today is about communication. Big deal, communication. The reason it's first is because you really can't get anywhere else until communication happens. We'll unpack that in just a moment. The second one is teamwork. The third one is problem solving. The fourth one is teachability. I'm going to go back and reread those and then take the last three. Communication. The second one, teamwork, and that is our ability to be able to join force with the people around us, to create synergy in the workplace. The third one, problem solving, to be able to look at a situation and without somebody telling me what to do, figure out what do I need to do about that and be able to take the initiative to do it. Melissa goes back to that confidence word as much as anything, but it also means some critical thinking, and we can all do that. The fourth one, teachability. As much as I want to be able to do things without having to ask, I also want to be able to learn and show my boss, show my teammates, and sometimes even, certainly with me, show people that answer to me that I'm willing to listen to them if they have good ideas, and I learn from my team every day. The fifth one, planning and organizing. I've got to be able to organize my thoughts, to organize my day, to organize my approach to the issues. The sixth one is technology use. Lee is our savior and our guardian here, but we all have to be able to grow in our ability to use technology. I doubt anybody's filling out a resume at this point where you couldn't say I'm proficient in Microsoft Word, Excel, those kinds of things. And if you're not yet there, you want to learn something. We'll talk about that. The seventh one, professionalism and self-management. I don't mean you have to wear a tie to work. I just mean that you have to know how to carry yourself in such a way that people say, oh, that person, they mean business. That one's serious. And so that's the seven. And so, Melissa, I'm going to hand it off to you. You're going to introduce our first speaker, and you may want to cap this off, and we'll go into it.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. Sort of the format we have together for this is we're hopefully having 1 to 2 individuals from the community to come in and join in with Truett's and UGA Griffin to really talk about what these 7 mean. And each week, we're taking one of those concepts and really looking at it. And so this week with communication, we're very fortunate to have 2 speakers, one from the University of Georgia Griffin campus and one from our community. And so we're actually going to start with Dr. Kurt Keely. And Dr. Keely is not with us physically today, but he did provide a recording for us. And if you've ever met Dr. Keely, he's just an amazing, amazing guy. If you haven't met him, I can't encourage you enough not to. Obviously, with social distancing, we don't have as many people visiting on our campus, but in the past, we've always tried to make sure people get to meet Dr. Kurt Keely because he's an interesting fella. So I'm going to give you his professional bio. Dr. Kurt Keely is the director for the Food Product and Innovation Center, which is located here on the UGA Griffin campus. It's one of several centers located here on our campus, and obviously it's focused on food innovations. Just a little bit about Dr. Keely. His background has been in industry. His previous industrial experience was working with cheeses, yogurt, pasta, granola, chocolate, soft drinks, and juices. So he's got his whole background is working in the food industry, and now he's brought that experience and know-how to the UGA Griffin campus and is sharing it with the center here. But he brings a wealth of experience, having worked with several very large employers, and he's got some interesting stories to share with us. So without further ado, we're going to listen to this.
Hi, my name is Kirk Keely. I'm the director of the Food Product Innovation and Commercialization Center at the University of Georgia, located in Griffin. I've been here about 6 years now, and I help entrepreneurs get their products to market, their new food or their new beverage products. We provide them with shelf life studies, product development, process development, and also nutrition facts panels. So anything you need to get your product to market, we can help you with. But what I want to talk about today is communications and how important I believe communications are to employability and to career success. I've had the opportunity in my 35-year career to work for a number of large food companies on both ends of the employment process. I have been an interviewee and an interviewer. In both times, in both situations, I've found that communications is key. It's provided me with opportunities to grow and develop as a professional, and it's helped me bring other people along. And what I want to share with you today are some of the tips that I've learned that maybe you can use as you try to find your career path. In my career, I've probably been interviewed about 50 to 100 times, usually for a promotion or for a new job. In all of those instances, I had to interact with strangers and to sell them on my skill set. And I think that's what you're going to have to do as you step into the workforce. One of the things I've learned early on is to be honest, also to be straightforward, and not to play games, but to come across as a real person. I think it's important that you show your best side, but also to listen. Not only do you have to sell yourself, you have to decide if you want to buy into this new organization. What are they telling you? Are they answering your questions? Are they going to be a good fit for you? In the interviewing process that I've been through, I've often found that it's important to understand the job that I'm interviewing for and the company that I want to work for. Do your homework. Make sure you understand what they sell, how they sell, and whether or not you think you can help. One of my favorite questions as an interviewer is to say, in my company, we make X, Y, and Z. Which is your favorite product and why? Once I get that answer, I ask my follow-up. So if that's your favorite product, how would you make it even better? How would you improve it? What am I asking when I ask that question? I want to know, did they do their homework? Do they eat my product? And how can they fix it? What kind of creative process or what kind of ideas do they have that would make my product even better? I'll share with you one interview I had with a summer intern once who was doing a fantastic job during the interview. She was bright, she was articulate, she was technical, she had everything I wanted, and she had a nutrition background. So my last question to her was, what is your favorite candy bar that we make at this company? And she said, I don't eat junk products. whoa, that was it. I could not have her come and work for me if she wouldn't eat the products. So be aware of what you know before you get into the interview. Know the kinds of questions that you can comfortably see coming and be prepared to answer them. Also, as an interviewer, I think it's important to establish a relationship and a discussion. Don't go in with simple answers, yes and no. Build on them. Yes, I agree with what you're saying, and here's why. And give your reasons. Let them know, let them see you so that you come through. I've also had the unfortunate experience of interviewing an international student whose English was not their first language. And every question I asked, I got the next sentence in their research thesis. So if I asked them how they felt about different kinds of foods, I heard the objective of my research is to study how egg gelatinizes with heat. Not what I wanted to hear, but I knew that we were not conversing. So that interview did not go very far. As a matter of fact, it was probably the longest interview of my life, the longest 30 minutes of my life to get through that interview. So don't do that, please. A lot of interview processes can be one-on-one or they can be team interviews. I've been in both situations where you have a team of interviewers peppering you with questions. Always turn to the question or the questioner, answer that question first. Wait, hear what the response is, and then go to the next question so that you're always paying attention to the source of the question, answering the first question first before going on. It's important not only do you communicate outwardly, but also to listen and to interpret how your responses are going. Read their faces. Are they happy? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they disgruntled? Are they preoccupied with something else? It's important to look at the non-verbal cues to know how you're doing and to adjust your answers or your responses accordingly. As an interviewer, I look for communication style. I want to make sure, especially if I'm hiring a scientist, that I have someone who can do the research, but who can also talk about their research comfortably. If they can't tell me about their research in such a way that I understand it, I know that we're going to have trouble. So understand what you know, be able to talk about what you know, and if you don't know, don't try to BS. Try to be clear and say, quite frankly, you know, I've never thought about that before. I'd have to do some research to have an answer, but don't try to fool. I once had an interview with a large carbonated company that has a blue can. And when I went to the interview, I was so excited because I had a great product idea, carbonated yogurt. Think about it. Yogurt, you carbonate it, you drink it, it's refreshing, it's healthy, it's fantastic. Well, the interviewer was very excited for me and kept asking for more information. And I kept laying it on. I kept selling this new product idea because I was working trying to get a product development job. What a great conversation we were having. And at the end, they said, well, how do you keep the yogurt from separating from the milk or from the water? I said, well, that's easy. I don't worry about it. I just take it and I shake it and then I drink it. They didn't want to hear that. They're all about convenience. They want a consumer to be able to pop the can, drink it back, and not have to shake before drinking. I thought I had missed the boat. I thought for sure they wouldn't hire me, but I got lucky. They decided they liked the idea enough, and they gave it to me as a project when I started working there. We never got to market, but it got me in the door. So again, try to be clear, try to be factual, and don't overpromise. When we talk about communications, it is a two-way street, and it's important to understand what you're asking of someone and what the reply and how you interpret what the response is. I have found in the workplace that sometimes working with different genders, different internationalities, as well as different age groups, it's important to take into account who you're talking to and what is the best way to interact or to communicate. In my group alone today, I have a 20-something, a 30-something, and a 40-plus something. And when it comes to interacting with these three individuals, I have very different styles. One is very comfortable texting me from the lab. I have an issue, please come and try this, something's not working. Well, I'm okay with a text. It's a little bit intrusive, but I've decided that over time it's the best way for me to communicate with this individual. The other individual, who's slightly older, prefers to communicate via email, would rather communicate via email than in person. I'm okay with that too, understanding that it's more comfortable, especially in times of a pandemic, that we understand how we communicate, and that works. Finally, the third individual prefers to be contacted by telephone. Again, 3 different individuals, 3 different ways of communicating. I understand their style. They understand that we can communicate this way, and it works very effectively. And I'm very proud of the team that I've created here at the University of Georgia, because we do a lot of good work, but it wasn't all that easy. We had to figure this out. So understand when you go in that there is going to be a period of time when you figure out each other's best method of communicating. And be patient, be flexible, by all means, pay attention. The last thing I would want to do is to have a conversation with my texter and have this person bury themselves in their cell phone and not be paying attention to what we're talking about. So there are some other techniques or strategies that I would ask you to avoid. Maybe hide the cell phone, put it away, especially while you're interviewing. You don't want to be distracted by someone's birthday, or they can't wait to tell you about what happened to them. You're in an interview. You're in a professional setting. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the interviewer so that you can answer the questions and put together your own questions to make sure you want the job. There's something about communications that many people will not talk about, but it's important to understand that when you are fresh and rested, you're probably a better communicator and probably a better listener. I've learned in my career that when it comes time to communicating by written message, I do much better writing my reports in the morning. I'm a much better morning writer. In the afternoon, that's my better time to get on the telephone. I can't put thoughts together on paper as well in the afternoon because I'm not as rested. So understand your body clock, understand how best to utilize your skill set, and use that in the workplace. The other thing that I've learned through hard experience is that it's important to be cognizant of your energy level. Once I was interviewing on the phone and I was sitting at my desk and I felt like all the energy was being drained into my chair and that I wasn't projecting through the phone and doing the best job I could of showing the interviewer that I was an energetic person. I complained about that to my wife, and she said, what you've got to do is take the phone, put it to your ear, get out of your chair and walk back and forth, and you'll find that energy. And she was right. The next interview I took on the phone, I walked, I gave my best ideas, I was projecting, and that was key to me. It made me feel like I was doing a better job. So be aware of your energy level. I've told this story to others and I'll share it with you. My first job out of school was with General Mills, and I went out for my first interview. I was living in New York at the time, so think about it. I go to the Midwest, I'm already an hour ahead. I'm an hour more tired than they are. I got in the night before. I had dinner, I went to bed. 2 o'clock in the morning, a fire alarm goes off. I've got to come out of my hotel room to make sure that everything's fine. Sure enough, it's fine. But now, go back to bed and get up for a 6:30 breakfast meeting, interview with the HR person. I was beat. But I did the breakfast knowing that I only had to get through a morning of interviews. By 2 o'clock, I'd be done. I was set. I could get through till 2 o'clock. Well, the interviews went well. And by the time I got to the afternoon 2 o'clock interview, they had tacked on 3 other interviews. So now I was interviewing until 5. That's okay. I can muscle through this. I can do this. So at 5 o'clock, that's my target. I gotta just make it through 5. Well, at 5 o'clock, the head of the department came and said, look, we really liked you. We'd like to take you to dinner tonight. Another interview. So I had dinner, and more interviews. And I had to make sure I didn't spill any food on my shirt. It was terrible. I was exhausted, but it worked out. All I'm saying is manage your energy so that you're not a one and done. Make sure that you're there for the long haul. Monitor yourself. Getting a job, conversing, communications, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So be aware of that when you get involved. And good luck to you.
Got you muted, Ron.
What a rich experience set Dr. Keely has, huh? That was fantastic. Melissa, those were solid gold pieces, don't you think?
Oh, yes. Dr. Keely brought us a wealth of information, from his personal experience, things he's observed, and just some really cool things that I thought were valuable for supervisors to hear. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I've decided I'm never again going to put somebody to sleep with a discussion about how eggs gelatinize with heat. So we're not going to do that for sure. I wrote that down, so I don't know what that means, but I'm never going to do it. But seriously, he brought us into the room with him to experience what it's like to be relational. And that's not just in an interview, that is with every kind of dialogue. People are people, and you never want to quit being you. But he was so finely attuned to this to be the best version of you and understand what you bring to it is going to be the right one. It's not that you're being pretentious. It's just that you understand this moment calls for my best, including energy level. What a great addition it was. I'm glad he didn't leave that out, huh?
Yeah, you gotta count in that you may be awakened in the middle of the night by a fire alarm. You never.
Yeah. So listen, I took a lot of notes. I hope you did. And boy, I'm so grateful that Dr. Keely was able to share his experience, skill set. So we have up next one more to offer some things to us. Melissa, why don't you tell us about Carmen?
Yeah, you're in for a treat. No pressure, Carmen. I'm going to read.
Set me up, Melissa.
I don't want to miss anything, so bear with me. I'm going to read Carmen's. It is a short bio, but it captures her very, very well. Carmen Caldwell is the founder of Life Fulfilled Coaching and Consulting, where she supports individuals and organizations in creating healthy relationships with God, self, and others through effective communication and intentional connection. She offers engaging keynotes and workshops on topics related to leadership and personal development, team and organizational effectiveness, racial justice and equity, and healthy personal relationships. Whew. Carmen.
All about relationships.
Yeah, she's all about relationships. Carmen has a wealth of experience training and leading diverse groups through various stages of development. In her former work as an internal consultant with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, she's currently a project director with the Council on Alcohol and Drugs, supporting communities in substance abuse prevention. She's serving on several boards and initiatives, and she often serves as a bridge of cultures and facilitates embracing new perspectives within groups. As a certified coach, facilitator, and speaker, Carmen's focus is helping others experience joy and fulfillment as they create the life they desire and deserve. So take it away, Carmen.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you both, to you, Melissa, and to Ron, for tapping me for this and coordinating this. Thank you, Lee, for the IT support, because we would not be here without you. So thanks so much for all you all do. And to Dr. Keely, although he's not on, I'm just honored to share this platform with him, and just knowing his distinguished career and all that he shared. So it's just been awesome. So as you said, I'm with Life Fulfilled Coaching and Consulting. I basically support people in connecting in relationships, whether personally or professionally. And a huge part of relationships and connecting is communication. So when you reached out to me, I was like, yes, this is good stuff. And really wanted to, I know we're targeting folks entry level or even those that may be in a career for a while. So I just the basic definition of communication is simply the exchange of information. That's, if we just talk about communication, how it happens, but it's a two-way street. So it consists of both giving and receiving information. And so that means your ability to write, right? Sometimes we have to communicate written or orally to speak what we feel or speak an idea. We use communication to influence, to get our way, if you will. We use communication in ways to educate and inform. So it's a powerful tool once you learn this. So I'm so grateful that this is the first topic. I think is pivotal and very foundational to us moving forward in the other series that's coming ahead. So when we look at communication in the workplace, it's so important. Because here's the thing, what I learned, people make judgments based upon your ability to communicate. Like they judge whether they're going to hire you for it. They judge whether you have a skill set. They judge your education level. They may judge you just personally because of the way you do or don't communicate. And so poor communication, of course, is an exchange of information. So it could lead to misinformation. And for an organization, if things get twisted in communication, it could cost time and money. And so if you want to be that employee that really doesn't cost your supervisor or your organization any additional expenses because you may have written something wrong or said something wrong, and then people took that and it did not perform in the way they expected it to. So here's some things I just want you to consider. We're going back to the basics on communication because I think it's critical. Sometimes we've lost that once we've been out of school for a while. And so just the basics of using proper grammar in both our writing and our speech. So going back to, third grade, second grade, I don't remember what grade it was, sentence structure, subject and verb agreement, the basics, go online and look that up. Understanding the proper spelling. If you are, a lot of jobs now are requiring that you submit written work to show your ability to write well and communicate using the written format. And so you want to use proper spelling and be aware of these homophones that we have, the there, and there. two, and two. Making sure that we use those properly because they communicate different things. And again, communication is about making sure that you exchange the information. You want to use proper punctuation. In this day and age with Word, and there's another great tool called Grammarly that can really support you in making sure that your written communication is done well. So you'll see when you type, you'll see little squiggly lines come up, maybe something's misspelled, or you'll see another line or something highlighted to let you know, maybe that's not the quite right sentence structure for that. And I've had times where I would argue with Word or argue with Grammarly. I know this is right. And sometimes I am right, but at least it gives you an awareness. So I encourage you, even on your job applications where there's opportunities for when you have to write an essay or respond to a question in a full written format, put it in one of these formats first, and then copy and paste it into the application so that you know it is grammatically correct, that the spelling is correct, and all of that. And then consider about how, when we're speaking, we're here in the South, and sometimes we drop those INGs or we just use our colloquialism and slangs, and that may work depending on the environment that you're in. I can say going or I can say going. It just depends on where I am, right? But being mindful of where you are going, the culture and the place that you're going into, so that you know what is expected of the way you communicate. And so again, thinking about any slang or lingo that we may use, is that appropriate in that particular setting, in that particular culture? And use words please. Use words that are in your current vocabulary. If you want to learn new words, expand your vocabulary, read more, do all of that. But don't go into an interview, don't go into a workplace pulling words that you heard and have no idea what they mean. I want to give you a funny example. My brother has a best friend of his, and he's really like a little brother to me as well. But this has been years ago. I think they were in high school, and we were all eating, and we had just finished eating. I mean, we are stuffed, like full. Well, he leans back in his chair and he goes, "Oh my gosh, that was so good. I'm famished." So everybody paused for a moment, shot eyes at each other, and then the whole table erupted in laughter because If you know the word famished, it definitely does not mean full. It means you're hungry. It means a total opposite. So know the words that you're using, know the vocabulary so that you can communicate exactly what you want to communicate. Another thing to consider is your nonverbal cues, because communication, 93%, hear this, 93% of communication is nonverbal. That includes our body language, our tone of voice, our facial expressions. Anybody is one of those people that, I said one thing, but my face said something totally different. Knowing if you don't have a poker face, get that together in the mirror the night before you go to that interview. Because sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And we have to be mindful of that when we are communicating whatever message we're trying to communicate. Does your expression align with what you're saying? Is your facial expression saying yes when your mouth is saying no? Or vice versa. Sometimes, or when we say something, we'll say yes with a question mark at the end. It doesn't sound very clear. Doesn't sound firm, like that's a firm yes. So understanding how we communicate and understanding that a lot of it is nonverbal. And so how we show up is important. It's clear. And I want you to understand that you represent the organization. So when you show up, when you speak, when you are talking, it impacts how that customer, that client views the organization. And it's critical if you are a frontline employee. If you're someone that's going to interact with the clients in any way, it's critical that you show up well and communicate well, but also even internally, right? Dr. Keely talked about your desire for promotions, your desire for growth. Your employers, supervisors, those hiring managers are looking at how you are able to communicate among your team. Are you able to share? Are you able to share information in a way that they understand and they get? Because sometimes, and I love Dr. Keely touching on that, sometimes we have to communicate differently to different people. And it may require us stretching out of our own box a little bit. But again, if the point of communication is so that you can get information, it's worth that. Maybe your supervisor may be someone who really likes just bullet points in your monthly report that you have to do. You want to give them bullet points. They don't want the whole narrative and, all of the juicy stuff is in between the paragraphs. No. They want you to pull it out, highlight it in some way, because oftentimes when you're talking, depending on the level in which you're reporting to, they're super busy and they just need the high level points to really understand what's going on. They don't need the full narrative. So knowing that about the person that you're communicating with is critical. It's important so that you can make sure you communicate it well. Can people hear your attitude? And this is important. Even, sometimes people think, right now we're in COVID, so many of us are at home. And so because you're not face to face, you may be talking on the phone or even in your email. There's something about the energy that gets transposed in the email that, you can read that and say, was she snappy with me? I don't know. Or you may, on the phone, it's important when you're talking again to a client that you sound excited to hear from them, that you sound like it's a call that you're welcoming, not that they're interrupting you in your day, hello. That's not what you want. I know some places actually even require you to have a mirror in front of your phone. Some of the call centers require this so that you can smile before you answer the phone. People can hear that. People can hear your smile. They can hear your sincerity. Again, 93% of communication is nonverbal. It's your tone and your body language. So being mindful of that when you are interacting, you want to be the person that someone is so compelled to go write a review about your organization and how amazing you made them feel, how much great service you provided, and how kind you were. I remember I was in a line at another fast food restaurant, I won't say, but I was in line, and because we know Chick-fil-A always gives great service. So I'm giving another example. So I was in line and I was pleasantly surprised by this young lady, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get around to see her, because the way she took my order, she sounded like she was happy to be there, like she was happy to serve me. And I was, You don't get this often at this particular place. And so I was just ready, and I turned and I looked, and it actually was one of my former students. I was so excited about that. One of my former students I work with in community, I said, well, maybe something we taught her stuck, but it makes a difference. And so, going back there, I'm like, I want her to serve me. I want her to be in that place, because you want to feel welcome. And so you are the extension of the mission, the values, the product, whatever it is your organization is selling and sharing. Here's another thing to consider in nonverbal cues is, how are you dressed? Some people don't consider that. Some places may require uniforms, but even in that, is it ironed? Is it clean? Is it presentable? Are your clothes tucked in, or is there buttons missing? What's going on? Making sure that you show up professionally, that communicates how you feel about yourself. If you show up any kind of way, thrown away like a raggedy doll, that makes people wonder, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your job? And what your supervisor feels about allowing you to work and not have, proper dress and proper uniform. So are they clean? Are they ironed? Is it the uniform sometimes severely faded? Maybe time to order another one. So those things to think about, so that, again, you are communicating a level of excellence. That's what you want to be known for. You want to have a reputation of someone who shows up in excellence. And part of that is making sure that your appearance is as it should be. Is the attire appropriate for that work environment? If you're working outside at a car wash, shorts, hey, go for it in the summertime, right? But if you're in a law firm, probably not, right? And even on these quote unquote casual Fridays, sometimes people get a little too casual, rolling out of bed. In COVID now, sometimes we only have to really dress up from the top up, and that's okay. But making sure that whatever you're bringing forward is presentable, that it represents you first, right? You want to represent yourself well, but also representing the organization and company at a level of excellence. So, and I've heard it said, dress for where you want to go. So if you are in an organization and you're not required to wear a tie, but you see all of the other managers, that's what they do, that's their dress code, and ultimately that's where you want to go, you might want to wear a tie every now and then, or you might want to wear a suit jacket or something different, whatever that represents the position that you desire, the position that you want, not where you are. Oh, I'm just frontline, so I'm slumming it today, and I don't know about you, it could get very easy to get in a monotony of not really thinking about dress in this COVID era. So when as I say, when outside opens back up and we're all out and free to go and you're back in workplaces, and some of you already are, don't carry this COVID pajama, fuzzy sock mentality with you. Put your clothes on, dress well, iron, wash, don't grab it out of the basket to go. You want to make sure it's clean and ironed. The other thing about communication, I'll say, is I said it's two parts. It's two-way communication. So a big factor that people don't factor in is listening. I've heard it said that we've been given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we talk. So if we think about it in that way, when someone's talking to you, communicating to you, oftentimes we're listening to respond. What am I going to say next? How am I going to jump in? In interviews, you may be listening to see, what am I going to say next to answer this question? And how am I going to show myself and really show myself in a positive light in this interview and respond to this question and show how I have the background, the skill set, the experience, and you miss the whole question. You don't answer. So we want to listen, be present to listen. And part of that is eye contact, nodding. It may even require you to repeat back something that they shared so that you're clear about that. That's another huge part of communication is feedback. What I heard you say is, right? So that you walk away from that conversation with understanding of what they intended to say and that that communication actually happened. And then you may even ask them, what did you hear me say? At a point in time where you want to make sure that it's clear, where you're giving somebody instructions or directions. This is great for relationships with your kids, with your spouses, so that communication happens. How many times did you say, that is not what I meant? That is not, well, that's what you said. right? And so understanding that you want to make sure that they walk away understanding what you mean, because here's the thing with communication. All that we receive is filtered through our life experiences. It's filtered through our culture. It's filtered through, Dr. Keely mentioned, the age or generation. So certain things may mean something to one person and they may receive it in a different way. And that may not have been how you intended it at all. And you end up having an issue that not even an issue. Just, you want to just ask, how did you hear me say it? So feedback is so clear, so important in communication. So I just want to leave you with those things to consider. Again, back to the basics, nothing mind-blowing or rocket science, but actually when you look at the people who do really well, they just stick to the basics and do the basics well. And I loved earlier when we were talking about this, it takes practice. It takes you to be intentional in honing these skills that you're going to be learning over these weeks, but especially with communication, it takes practice. So find your communication buddy, get together, you all share, practice, bounce off interview, role play in the interview so that you are prepared and ready for what's yours. I believe it. The job that you desire, the employment that you're looking for, you put forth the effort. And I believe, I have the faith in you that when you do that, you'll get the job that you've been seeking. That's all I have for you.
Wow. Am I live, Lee?
Yeah, you're live.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thanks. Look, Carmen, that was masterwork. What a privilege to listen to you. What a thrill to listen to. You are so energized, and everything you said was so rich. And you and Dr. Keely together have created sort of the perfect mixture. He had so much to say about the experience of being 5,200 interviews. He said he brought so much into that, and then you gave us so many specific and actionable things we can do. Watching our grammar, paying attention to the things. She mentioned, did you hear that, Melissa? She talked about homophones. When's the last time you talked about homophones? But that's exactly right. When you write things down.
Often, actually, because it drives me crazy.
Did you have to see? Okay, do I know all three theirs? I think I know all three theirs. Yeah. But listen, that was wonderful because you're telling us things. If you're ever writing a cover letter, if you're going to have to create a personal narrative or simply answer a question on a job interview or write a report if you expect to get ahead. All those things are great. Telling me that I've got to watch my slang. I'll confess this to you. I have a few of our younger team members who are teaching me to say things like facts, and I can't think. Forget it. I have to ask what they tell me.
Facts and big facts.
I'm literally talking to my 14-year-old daughter, was in the middle of a sentence. I thought, I forgot what word I'm supposed to use. So I texted one of my 18-year-old teammates and said, what's the word I'm supposed to use right now? She sent it back and I fired it off. But I'm learning the other direction. But it matters to us that we're communicating to our environment. And that's absolutely right. I think, Carmen, you alluded to this, that you're going to think about communicating where you're headed, not just where you've been, because you expect to go somewhere, and you're almost going to talk your way into that, whether it's selling yourself or just be an effective communicator. This stuff was solid gold, getting Grammarly involved. I remember it brought back to mind the story of an early Greek philosopher who became they called an orator, a speaker, and that was their thing. They didn't have movies, they had speakers and plays. And he literally would stand by the seashore with little pebbles in his mouth, trying to be understood over the sound of the winds and the wave. And he forced himself to work on his diction, his ability to articulate words in order to be understood. And it turned out that he was very successful, and that's a lucrative career in his day because he wanted to communicate. So it's worth, you said this, Carmen, it's worth practicing and making yourself better. You had this great idea, get a buddy and do something with them. And so what rich features, Melissa, don't you think so? I just felt I was taking notes just constantly while she was talking.
Yeah, I was taking a lot. It was amazing, great information. One of the things that really stood out to me is, we're talking about communication, and a lot of what we've been talking about with the purpose of this has been to make for more successful interviews and more successful employees. But I thought something that Carmen brought out is really worth kind of pushing out there again, even getting to the interview. A lot of what she talked about with the grammar and the completion of forms, the initial conversation with the company, you want to make sure you're even called in for an interview. And those are the sorts of things that can really, despite how much education you may have or experience or training, if you mess up, on that application and your grammar's not up to par, or any number of things that don't make you appealing on a piece of paper or on a screen before they even get the privilege of meeting you. You want to make sure you're able to get into that door to sell yourself. And so I just thought that was some really powerful information to bring up. So thank you, Carmen.
Yeah, very good. Very good. It brought back to something that a friend of mine uses in their hiring. He has a slogan: hire slow and fire fast, because the real notion is this, that if I ever, and in terms of an interview, if I think I'm going to say no, eventually I'll say no up front. And with our process particularly, you're going to go through at least 3 interviews. And the first one is not really an interview. The first one is just to get to know whether or not you really get the interview. I mean, it's an interview, but it's really just saying, do we think we can find in you what we know belongs here? Because there's a certain culture here. There's a certain expectation of giving your best energy and efforts of what you're going to participate, what you're going to contribute. As Carmen said, not just the front line, but even to the team. What kind of culture are you going to help us have? How well are you going to be able to understood as a teammate? And so the first interview here really is just going to be to determine whether or not we want to really interview you about your skills and abilities. This is just getting to know you and saying, does this fit? And communication is the single most critical aspect. And my guess is anyone who's ever interviewed will tell you the first level isn't really about your expertise or knowledge. The first level is about you. Show me you. And that's worth working on. Wouldn't you say, Melissa?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back to what we started off with: know yourself and have confidence in yourself. Figure out what your strengths are and bring those to the table. Highlight them.
That's right. Hey, we're going to, in just a moment, I'm going to share a couple more ideas. If you have your workbook, they're going to be ideas that are written down in there. And then you're going to have a chance to ask questions, so you don't have to wait. Down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A button, and you can go ahead and hit that and type questions that have come up from Dr. Keely's presentation, from Carmen's presentation, from anything that Melissa or I have said. And you may have a technical question for Lee. He's a whiz. But whatever your questions are, you can go ahead and put those things in there. And at the end, we're going to try to select a few if we have time for. I want to go back to your notes, just give you this concept. And this is really about you knowing from our experiences, general in a lot of ways, it's generic. At Truett Grill Chick-fil-A, we understand that communicate is connection. To communicate is to connect. And that connecting or connection is our key to success. So we will only talk to people that we think can connect with people. Our business thrives on being able to make connections, and so does every other business. Whether you're communicating directly with customers, or you're second or third tier provider, and you're communicating with teammates, you're communicating with bosses, you're communicating with people who are direct reports to you. You must be able to communicate effectively. And we really talk about it in terms of 3 ways. Now, for here, we say communication allows us to meet the needs and expectations of our guests. And let's do it quickly and accurately. So you've all been through literally a drive-through window where you walk, you drive up and you want a biscuit or a burger and some fries, and somebody tries to sell you a milkshake and a baked potato, and you say, that's not what I ate at all, and you want to throw it back in this potato tossing contest, and you never wanted that. All you wanted was some food, and that thing got in the way. It's communication. We care what you want, and we want to meet that need and expectation well. But that's only going to happen if I can understand you and you can understand me. And so communication, both with the language we use and the way we go about presenting our ideas. In fact, communicating is not me telling you what I think. Communicating is you understanding what I meant. Communication hasn't happened until you understood what I meant, no matter how many words I've used. The second thing, communication enables the team to work together to accomplish our shared goal of guest satisfaction. But as a matter of fact, if you're not working directly with guests, you've got to work with people. Unless you're an author who does all your work by yourself, and even if you aren't, if you want to write books, you're still going to have to work with an editor and a publisher and a whole bunch of people. You're going to have to be able to communicate with a team of people and do some things together. Teamwork requires communication. The third thing is it contributes to a positive and inspiring atmosphere in our situation for guests and team members. Culture beats everything. We want communication to support good culture. And so we want to see that happen with effective communication, and people communicating not just information, but communicating heart and mind and attitude. In fact, that really boils down to 3 kinds of communication. One is information. I want to get the right information. The second is coordination or function, and that is I want to be able to do things together, make sure each of us is understood. So we're both, if we're pedaling the thing together. If it's a two-person bicycle, we want to know when we're rowing, when we're turning the cranks. And then the third thing is the emotional connection. And Carmen has alluded to this. Dr. Keely has alluded to this. You're making a relational connection. And relations are emotions. I'm not saying you're going to cry on somebody's shoulder. I'm saying you're going to have to communicate something that is past simple information to be part of a team. Well, what that gets to is we recognize that our communication goals require us to utilize both verbal and nonverbal communication intentionally and strategically. I'll never forget, there was a gentleman who walked in for an interview, and he was wearing, it could have been the same fast food restaurant, Carmen, you were mentioning. He was wearing another company's logo and advertisement on his t-shirt when he came to interview with that first round of interview. I hope you understand this, that the deck was stacked against him when he walked in for that interview. It was an open interview where we do that from time to time. You come in, you don't have to make an appointment, and we just interview people, left and right, one after another, as if rooms filled with people. But he wasn't going to get anywhere, probably, and I didn't interview him that day, but because what he presented to us communicated something that if he thought about it, he wouldn't. I remember recently receiving an application. I went ahead and talked to the guy, but he had written his name, his last name in the first name and the last name field of his application. I know he didn't mean to do that, but he communicated something to me, and it was not careful. And we have to do careful things here. So he was starting off kind of, behind the eight ball, and was going to have a hard time getting there. And everybody who's interviewed has these stories. And what we're saying to you is whether it's exercising good grammar, if it's practicing the way you articulate words, if it's taking time to slow down, if it's being genuine and knowing how to present yourself, if it's how you dress, all of these things matter. Here we tell people we're going to work on 4 things in terms of communication. Number 1, create eye contact. Make sure you look people in the eye when you speak. Second thing, share a smile. In fact, here we will say you almost never going to you won't even get a chance to get a job if you don't have a pretty easy smile. I mean, you just got to smile pretty easy. And so if you want to interview here, I want you to interview here. I want you to come to Truett and try to get a job. But I want to tell you beforehand, smile. Do a lot of smiling because it makes a big difference. The third, not fake, just real. Find something to smile about. Smile, even something you imagine. The third thing is speak with a friendly tone. We just want to hear that you mean you like me. I just want to know you like me. And I want to know you're going to be easy to get along with. And so speak with a friendly tone. One of the biggest flags I have when it comes to people being part of our team is whether or not they sound defensive or edgy. Because if you sound defensive or edgy, you can't handle a high pressure workplace without and be coordinated. The last thing we teach people always say my pleasure. If you've ever been part of Truett's Grill or to a Chick-fil-A, we say my pleasure. Well, that's all about creating an atmosphere where people feel welcome and appreciated. And we teach people really, and our teammates always make personal connections. That's what it's about. So we all agree we want to communicate well, and that's why you're here. You've heard some fabulous ideas, and maybe you have some questions, or Melissa, maybe there's something else you want to add. Lee, do we have any questions?
No questions currently right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we still got some time if anybody wants to send those in.
I'm sorry?
So we still have time if anybody wants to send those in.
Fantastic. Please do, Melissa. We're wrapping up here. Just a couple minutes left. Anything you want to cap off? Or Carmen, I know you're still back in the wings. Anything you need to throw in there before we're finished today? And get that question in if you want to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of go back to the same things because I think they were the big points. Developing that confidence in yourself, knowing your strengths and developing those strengths. I really liked Carmen's talking about pairing up with a buddy and, practicing interviews. And I was kind of imagining myself as for some reason, I went back to being 17, which, was like 10 years ago. Longer than that. But anyway, I went back there and I'm like, I was hard for me to imagine doing that with a friend, but hopefully if you're like me, you're like my friends and I would probably not do that very well. Think about some mentors that you could probably find around within your community. I mean, there's a lot of people who are willing to help with these things. And I think just going to say the 4 people you see on the screen, I think are 4 people who feel passionately about this. Find someone who's interested and who wants to help you, even just listen to you for just a couple of minutes, give you some questions and field them to you and give you honest feedback as to whether or not you made that eye contact or if you sounded positive or if you were making up words, because I have known people to make up words before. Maybe I have, but all of those pointers are huge in getting you in the door, because you can have the best education and have the best experience in the world, but if you can't sell yourself up front, you're not getting in the door to that next phase that you want to go to. So it's worth taking the time and investing that in yourself to be able to go forward.
Really good stuff, Melissa. Make eye contact, smile a lot, speak with that friendly tone. Make sure that you present the best you with the things you write on your application, on your cover letter, on your resume, and the things that you share about yourself. And going back to Dr. Keely, make it personal. Don't try to be a different person. You are you, and you are a well-crafted you. Just bring that best out. So we are so grateful. I hope that you'll, if you have any questions, shoot them in the last minute. Otherwise, we're just about to sign off. Next week, we're going to be to the next one where we talk about teamwork. And we're going to talk about what goes into effective teamwork, because you're going to be asked, at least in our interview process here, Melissa, we're going to ask you to tell us about some things you've done as a team. And I don't even care if you didn't work. I want to hear how you work as a teammate, because you're going to have to be a teammate no matter where you work. And so we're going to want to talk about that. So we're going to talk about how to be an effective team member, especially if you want to be able to present yourself for the next job, the job you're at now. Even if you don't plan to be there a long time, you want your people around you to be able to give you great high praise when they're asked what kind of employee you were. You want to be able to share stories about effective teamwork in your past experience. You want to be able to project that you know how to be part of a team. And so next week is going to be about teamwork. We've got some great speakers lined up from this area, and we can't wait to see you. You'll be able to sign up very soon on a similar link that you used today. And that's it. Melissa, anything else we need to let them know?
We do have one question here. Lee, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, sure. So we got a question that said, I'm not looking for a job right now, but this is excellent information. Will this recording be available to view later? I think their plan is right now that sometime within the next day, probably we'll have this on Facebook. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes, that's exactly right. In fact, we're looking to make it replayed both as an event itself and sort of on the warehouse of the web, so that you can go tap into it anytime. Yes, it will be available. In fact, I'll just make sure that we get it on our Truett link, and maybe we'll be able to share it, UGA Griffin as well. We'll get it on our link about where to find a replay. Yeah, we'll do that. All right. Well, then, thank you so much. We are honored to have you here and grateful to be able to share this journey. And we look forward to seeing you next week when we talk about teamwork. Thanks again for being here. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much, Carmen Caldwell. Thank you for Dr. Kirk Keely. We're grateful to all of you.